So what exactly happened on January 6, 2021? The mainstream press is calling the Capitol Hill break-in a riot by pro-Trumpers. Is that accurate? Is there more to the story? And what does it all mean for America and the world? Today, I have two great journalists to talk about this. First, our very own top flight reporter, Celia Farber, who was on scene in Washington at the time, and she's going to tell us what she heard and saw and knows. Celia is currently reporting for uncoverdc.com and the Epoch Times. She's covered a range of topics for other major magazines, including Spin, Rolling Stone, Esquire, Harper's, Salon, and the New York Post. Celia is particularly noted for her investigative reporting on HIV and AIDS, and her book, Serious Adverse Events, an uncensored history of AIDS. She is the recipient of the Semmelweis Society's International Clean Hands Award for Investigative Journalism. My second guest is one of Germany's premier investigative reporters. Dirk Pohlmann has covered all sorts of topics, including science, tech, and travel, but considers himself a specialist in Cold War operations, a topic that he says changed his worldview. His expose of Wikipedia revealed that a small group of pro-American, pro-Israel, and left-leaning gatekeepers censor and smear people who contribute information that doesn't hew to official narratives or is deemed hostile to Israel. He has, in the course of his career, produced more than 20 documentaries that have aired around the world. And he has authored the book, The Eco Catastrophe, and is working on a new one about the unsolved murder case of former CEO chairman of Deutsche Bank, Alfred Herrhausen, who was killed in a terrorist attack in 1989. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So, Celia, let's start with you. Tell us what you saw and heard and know.
Okay, I want to start by just saying the most elemental thing, which is this, that if you were there on the ground, I believe that crowds are living organisms, and that crowd, you can feel a crowd, you know what it's going to do. I'm kind of influenced by the writings of Elias Canetti, who wrote this masterpiece called Crowds and Power, and it's this incredible description of how different crowds behave in different situations. Well, this was it was a peaceful crowd, it was a happy crowd, it was we love America. We want to defend our country. I don't want to call it a protest. The gathering, I'm going to call it a gathering, was called, let's not forget, Save America. So this is reflective of a hope. You saw people from all walks of life, all races, ethnicities, religions. A lot of I saw Buddhist monks. I saw were a lot of Chinese, Vietnamese.
So this isn't, because a lot of people have the impression, this is a march because people are saying this was a rigged election and people are upset and so on. So
it wasn't like that. It didn't have any edge. It didn't have any, we would have been able to feel it if there was like anger roiling. And I have to say, all of a sudden, two strange things happened. First of all, people began to walk. So the march was from the president gave his talk at the Ellipse, and then the talk ended and he said, I'm sure you've seen the quote, now let's all walk peacefully toward the Capitol, right? So people start, and this is what happens every time. People have to remember there have been, at least so far, just about election integrity, 3 of these. And this was by far the biggest. I would say it was 3 times bigger, I think, than the one that I attended also in mid-November.
So are you saying hundreds of thousands of people?
I mean, I said in my piece 1 million, and I got a little bit scolded for that by some people who got a little crabby. How could you say 1 million? It felt like 1 million when I saw the aerial shots. I don't know. It's not my
Okay, that's
expertise, but
okay.
at
That's okay.
least at least 500,000, at
Okay.
least. And what we also have to take note of is these are people who have limited funds, who have been out of work in many cases for the better part of the year, who got there by hook or by crook and were met with every form of undermining and hostility by the DC mayor, who did really cruel things like shutting down all the toilets, banning, no porta potties, taking away all the food vendors. She actually hauled away, what do you call it? Chased away the food vendors the night
Wow.
before and the morning of.
Wow.
Some of them got towed. I heard that patriots came in with porta potties, perhaps only 6. I know there was one hot dog stand, at least one that I saw, because I stood in line to get a hot dog at that hot dog stand for something like an hour and a half. But nobody was complaining. Nobody was angry. It was a very peaceful protest.
So how did that translate to the Capitol Hill?
Okay, so then everybody, as this is what goes on at these marches, everybody starts, after the speeches, people start walking up Pennsylvania Avenue, and this time we walked to the Capitol. Everybody gathered around, like I was sitting at the reflector pool, interviewing people, feeding the seagulls. Very harmonious, good spirit, even though it was very, very cold. All of a sudden, I saw, here's the first strange thing that happened. I saw a sizzling red flare in the sky, a sizzling red flare. And I started shouting almost. I said, "What is that? What is that?" And nobody answered. And other people were saying, "What is it? What is it?" And I also heard explosions. We all heard explosions. I am not good with characterizing. It wasn't gunshots, but it was explosions. And so there were things going on nobody could make sense of. Nobody really understood. And then things kind of settled down again. And then the crowd started to, I guess, migrate with a little more concentration toward the Capitol building. But most people were kind of hanging back. That was right around the time you called me. So I'm still near the reflector pool. And then all of a sudden I heard, first of all, the energy changed. It just almost like in a sci-fi movie or something, where there's some kind of like alien presence and everything just got dark and menacing and weird. And there were just all these people around screaming at everybody and bullhorns. Somebody screamed, "Patriots have breached the Capitol. Patriots have breached the Capitol." And we were all looking at each other like, "What? Breached the Capitol? Like, what do you mean? Why?" Because there was no such idea. Nobody was talking about that. There was, and so I saw some people, up on a statue, and people are shooting with their phones and stuff. And then I see the tear gas. So there's lots of tear gas, and it's just kind of like people are shouting at each other what's going on. People are saying, "Oh, they're being tear gassed." And I just remember being very confused, like, how and why is this? It felt inconsistent. It was as though a different event was like grafted onto the event that we were all at. And so I just, by this time it was about 4 o'clock, I drifted away, and I just thought, okay, I'm gonna stay out of trouble. And I started walking back toward Pennsylvania Avenue, and I needed to charge my phone, and I met these people who had an RV where they were selling Trump stuff, and they were very, very nice, and they were telling me their stories.
So you didn't get anywhere near.
Absolutely not. No.
So your thing is that, to me, that flare seems like it was a signal.
That was a signal.
And this group of people was a different group from this mass of people going through.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any information on who that group of people is? who those people are?
So there was an article, the article that I sent you, let me just call it up here on my phone. It was an article written by, give me one second. Okay, this article is called Covert Cadre, What I Saw Leading Up to the US Capitol Attack by a Michael Waller. And maybe later on we can put a link. It's at an outlet called, give me one second, Center for Security Policy.org. Okay, now he observed, and he also, like I did, went basically as a citizen.
Right.
And I think he lives in DC. So here's what he says. He says that he noted 4 cells or units that were aberrant and odd, and they were plainclothes militants, agent provocateurs, fake Trump supporters, and what he calls disciplined uniformed column of attackers. So in this piece, and again, maybe we'll drop the link and everybody can read it later, he breaks down how they look different, exactly what their gear was. And
oh, that's interesting. So I want to ask Dirk, what is the coverage of this like in your country, and what are you picking up on as you hear what Celia has to say about this whole event?
The coverage is that some crazy right-wing rioters stormed the Capitol, and all Democrats have to stand together to go against this menace and the danger that it poses to the democracy. It's connected to the errant Donald Trump government in the reporting. And it's, for me, now I have to say something. It's like a déjà vu, because we had the demonstration in Germany in August last year, which was against the methods that the government used against COVID-19. And it was very similar, what you described. It is so similar that it's a little bit eerie. It was like a big festival. I called it something like a family rock concert. The attitude, lots of people from all different strands. It was very peaceful. It was summertime. It was nice. And then we had this. We had a demonstration which was not allowed, forbidden. The topic there was that it was for the Constitution. It's because all of these basic rights have been put down because of COVID-19. We have 4 basic human rights from our Constitution, which have been minimized, and that was a demonstration against that. And then we had this small group of right-wing, extreme right-wing, up to neo-Nazis, who were in the vicinity of the Reichstag, which of course is a historically charged building. And they had kind of, there was a weird person, which reminded me of your so-called Viking shaman, or what it was called.
Oh, that Viking guy with the...
Yeah, with the the native bison head there, which they called Viking. But be that as it may, it is a strange figure. It is a strange figure, and we had the same. We had the demonstrations, as I said, were forbidden, but strangely enough, we had one demonstration which was put to the officials by a neo-Nazi, and that was allowed. And it was about 300 people, weirdos, all weirdos, who demonstrated very close, the closest to the Reichstag. And there's a special police unit in the Reichstag, I think similar to the United States with the Capitol. They were not there. There was, all over was police, like several thousands, but at that spot not. And then a lady who later on, she was together with a man who claimed to have come from the Intergalactic Federation and had telepathic contact to Donald Trump. I mean, as weird as that. And she said that Trump is in Berlin and he waits for us to come to the Reichstag. There will be a peace treaty for Germany and we just have to give him a sign. So let's all storm the Reichstag. She had rehearsed that speech that allegedly was just coming from her mouth before. There's footage of that. We also had agents provocateurs around there. I spoke to a policeman who was critical to what's going on, and he told me that you could see that they all had backpacks with at one side a water bottle in them, and the other side a newspaper, which was the sign under each other, "We belong together." Yeah, and then there was the storm on the Reichstag. This lady with a weird, saying shit that Trump is there. She knows it. She's in the embassy, which is only a few hundred meters away from that space. And that was reported in the German media as the main event of this, of the demonstration, which was very much like you said, very, very peaceful. And then it got a very different attitude. There were only 3 policemen defending the Reichstag, so to speak. They stood there. The people came up. There was hardly anything done, but were some famous right-wing radicals. And that was the main thing in the German reporting, just like you described. It was the whole thing turned. I came home and then I couldn't believe when I saw the news and looked on the internet. It was like I'd been in a different reality at that moment. It was also not focusing on what the demonstration was about, but it turned into an ugly event for which then it was said that the German FBI, so to speak, has to come down on these people. There were decisions by the politicians. They compared them. They said they were anti-Semites and they were neo-Nazis and so on. So the German interior intelligence has to take care of that. The police has to take care of that. It was criminalized in a way, what happened there. And from there on, this is the narrative that is told. And we have a YouTube show similar to what you do here. And we called, when we heard about what was going on in the United States, we called the show Reichstag 2.0 because it was so similar to what we witnessed. And it's about the same. We don't know how many people demonstrated. We thought it was hundreds of thousands, and the police said it was 22,000. So we couldn't, and it was a huge thing. But what you saw were only these 200 people storming up the Reichstag, trying to get into the parliament. So it is so similar that I have when Christina told me, I thought it's a weird feeling to see the same thing happening again with the same framing of events, with going into the direction that this is the event that changed everything, that led to a crackdown. That's happened in Germany, and now it happened in the United States. And it's the only thing maybe different is that I didn't saw a flare. Everything else is.
Well, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Given your knowledge of history, of hidden history in particular, what does this say to you? That these two events are so similar and happened, relatively close to each other in time.
Yes, in the one, it's I have no clear cut explanation for that. But what it tells me that something very fishy is going on, and it's like getting control of the media. In a way, it's quite easy because the main narrative is this now, and if you argue differently, then you're marginalized. And the other thing is that it seems like a preparation for something else. I think it's an event in both cases which has a huge effect afterwards, and that cannot be for nothing. And that it's so similar. And I even talked to policemen, as I said, who said this all looks rigged. It looks rigged because we have these agent provocateurs there. We have the strange situation that the most important place is demonstrators are put close to it, and then they let them just go on the stairs. And it stopped up there. There were just 3 policemen acting like kung fu warriors, like Ninja Turtles, we call them. They were defending the German parliament against these people. So it was not as violent as what happened in the United States with 5 people, I think, died. Not all but I mean, at least a woman was shot there, yeah? But nothing like that happened in Germany. But the effects are the same. What it tells me is that we should be very careful what is happening, maybe not jumping to conclusions immediately, but something is going on, something is fishy.
My reptilian brain, and I want to hear from you after, Celia, but my reptilian brain is telling me that there's some kind of coordination, international coordination going on.
If I want to, I would like to join. This is exactly what I thought when I heard you describing that. It is like if it's the same thing. It's like a pattern, you know. One thing I noticed from my Cold War intelligence operations experience is that the most important things are kept secret, so you can reproduce them. You can copy them on another instance. If it's good, if it's worked, then you have a tool which you can transfer to another situation. And this is very much the same here. It's like the Germany, also with the symbolism, with the center for the government. It's so similar that it looks like to me, like a rehearsal, and then the next thing in the United States, the big thing. Although, I mean, this thing in Reichstag was in the international press, and it was similar in the international press. It was always these pictures of people with black, white, and red flags, which is non-democratic colors, so to speak, in Germany, and storming up the Reichstag. So it was all over. And it's like, you said psyops, and that's exactly what I thought. I thought that it looks like making use of the media society that we are. And then the question is to achieve what? Yeah. But my reptilian brain, if you call it that way, is alert. It's alert. Something is going on here. I try to restrain from saying, making conclusions too early, but we should be very alert. Something will happen.
What do you think, Celia?
Well, so this is so interesting hearing all this, and okay. Here's what I think. So first of all, in a flash, in a blinding flash, look what they have achieved. Not so patriots, so-called Trump supporters, I like to say patriots, were already weaponized, stigmatized. There was all this social engineering and media weaponry that has gone into for 4 years, making these people into Nazis and racists and so on and so forth. And anybody who spends any time speaking to them discovers very quickly that these are very ordinary, hardworking, decent people. Okay, so that's been a lie that's been festering for 4 years already. But now what they achieved is they made it not only like socially reprehensible to be, of this crowd or of this opinion, but dangerous and now criminal, not just criminal, terrorist. And people are being pulled who attended the rally they're stopping planes because they discovered 2 women were talking about their support of Donald Trump. They emptied the plane, everybody off the plane. I read also that it's possible.
Wow.
Yeah, this happened. I can't recall where, but it was all over the news. It's possible that some people were singing the national anthem. I think they're going to say that the American flag is a symbol of terrorism soon. I mean it.
They.
Well, the people writing these PSYOP scripts, because now they have conflated patriotism. And again, I want to point out, the march was called Save America. The march has been conflated in the public mind now as like as if a million, let's call it 1 million Americans, okay, to be conservative, 500,000 Americans are suddenly terrorists, actual terrorists who want to smash into the Capitol and kill people, kidnap Democratic congressman. It's so patently insane that I just thought this cannot possibly fly.
Wait,
and what it makes me think of is 9/11. 9/11. Let's get 9/11 for a second, where we were told the fairy tale, of course, that this horrific event, and of course it doesn't compare in terms of destruction and death and so forth, but they are calling in the mainstream media, they are calling the event on par with Pearl Harbor and 9/11 in
The
terms of
riot, the Capitol Hill
yes,
thing?
they are. Yes, they
Okay,
are.
so I want to pursue that a little further with you, but I want to ask Dirk, what exactly was the march about in Germany that turned into
Yeah,
chaos?
it's the march itself did not turn into chaos. It was just blocked. There were so many people. You know, there were rules set out by the
But what was it
Berlin.
for? What was it for?
Point was to demonstrate really against and to show up against the lockdown methods in Germany. So it was wearing masks, and we had the first lockdown in springtime, and it was like, of course, there's COVID-19. We are called now people who deny that it exists, but I don't know anybody who does really, but it is like, is this appropriate? And I think this is very interesting in connection with the virus. There is a virus and there is a problem, but it's very difficult to maintain the balance in terms of what you do with it. And
Well,
it seems to split the society into two parts which cannot communicate with each other anymore.
but
It's
I think that's on purpose. That's on purpose
Absolutely.
because you cannot get good information. You can't even get straight information from the major, like the CDC and the World Health Organization or whatever, all these major, you can't get a clear picture, an honest picture of what exactly is going on. First of all, the testing was questionable. The counting of the deaths, questionable. Doctors coming out and saying, you know, people will come in and if they had flu-like symptoms, we said they had COVID, we get the money because they got paid extra money, the hospitals, if you had
same
COVID.
in Germany.
And then you claim the death is COVID even when it's not, just because, you know, so everything is all mixed and mashed and nobody knows what's true. But what everybody does know is that we're being told to socially distance. People's businesses are falling apart. People are going crazy. Everything is just being disintegrated. And meanwhile, as you sit home, you know, the billionaires and the, you know, 1%, I think it's even beyond 1%. Now you've got to call them the 0.01% because it's, you know, it's Amazon, you know, you can't go to stores to buy. All the stores are falling apart. There's only going to be Amazon left. So there are a lot of things that are connected to this. And tell me if I'm wrong, Celia, you know, that march is also people saying, you know, this, because Trump, the thing about Trump, and whether you're a supporter or not, doesn't matter to me. You know, the thing about him was he was saying this COVID thing, you know, this endless social distancing is going to destroy this country. It's going to destroy the economy. And that's exactly what happened. And he was being called a killer. They're calling him committing, you know, not genocide, but, you know, being responsible for the deaths of people because he's advocating going out with no masks or whatever. And I think, don't you think that march was also about people saying, you know, our country's falling apart, we're going broke and hungry?
Absolutely. Absolutely it was. And what I see, the continuum that I see, and let's bring back our word PSYOP, psychological operation, from the beginning of when Trump was elected, as you know, Christina, I was I put myself in fierce vocal opposition to Trump loathing, Trump, as we call Trump derangement syndrome. I saw that as very dangerous because what it achieved was pathologizing people, not listening to them anymore. And what I saw with all my decades of reporting on the immense damage done by the mentality around HIV, never mind the horrendous bad science, but the mentality was, if you touch another person, you could die, right? Intimacy with another person, it means death. So they turned everything around. It used to mean sex causes life. Now suddenly sex causes death. So I was looking at like, what are the ideas that are going into people's minds? So with Trump hatred, the new idea was, it's political, it's contagious, right? So like if your mother voted for Trump, cut her off, do it publicly, denounce her, very Maoist stuff. Don't ever speak to everybody cutting it. That's contagion mania. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
right. And so now, so now people's minds are prepared. They're terrorized of something touching them and destroying everything.
Something they can't see.
Something they can't see, right? And so then the Trump contamination mania or contagion mania turns into, now everybody's perfectly primed about COVID. You don't wear a mask, I'm gonna shoot you, or I'm gonna punch you, or I'm gonna shriek at you, or I'm never gonna speak to you again, because everyone's already so weaponized and hostile. So all these things kind of flow into each other. So now you have COVID going on for 10 months with all of the immense like destruction of the social fabric and the social contract, right? Like, you're my neighbor, you're my friend, or you're my grandmother. I want to hug you. All of that is now destroyed, and you have to get behind it, or you're not even a person. You're just not a decent person. So it was already lying in wait that you were a terrorist if you didn't buy into all these things. So now all they had to do was pull the final lever and do what they did with their plant groups, who took whatever they took. You know, we've all seen the footage, smashed the windows. Why was there no security? Just like Dirk was saying about the Reichstag. Are you kidding me? The biggest protest possibly in the history of this country was January 6th. And they've already been saying these people are crazy, dangerous, racist. So why didn't they have any security? And why did they, we've seen the footage, fling the doors open and shoo them in? Come on, come on, come on.
Mhm.
Have you both seen these?
Yes, I've seen that.
They're going, go, come on, come on, come on, hurry, get in. Now, the woman who was shot, I'm sorry, but I have to say ostensibly.
Oh, you're not convinced she's dead?
I mean, don't think me horrible with everything. I just have to say ostensibly until all the forensic evidence is in, which could take a very long time.
Was there a funeral?
I don't know anything about that, but here's what I'm asking. Let's just pull back a little bit. How do you simultaneously have doors being flung open, come in, they're welcome, and people are flooding in, and at the same time, a plainclothes cop or whoever it was is shooting at one of the protesters through a window, hits her in the neck. And I'm at there was actually one single bar open near bar tavern near the Capitol. And my two friends miraculously knew the owner. So I found myself there after all this that I've described to you. And I'm looking at a big TV screen and I'm seeing this woman with blood, like a close-up. They're already showing us footage. When do you ever see that on television?
That's true. That's true. That's rare.
Everything is very, very strange. And also, why, in terms of the psyopery, why isn't it Trump supporters who are burning down cities? Because one of theirs was shot. It was allegedly a Trump supporter, right? She had served in the Navy. Ashley Babbitt?
Yes. And so
I mean, no dishonor to her.
And she was, who was she shot by?
By a plainclothes cop inside the Capitol.
Plainclothes cop?
I believe it was a plane. I mean, there were security, you know, there are different ranks of security and plainclothes cops, and maybe.
And has he been identified?
Well, that's a really good question too. Nothing panned out like it has done with other deaths that cause the nation to go into revolutionary uproar. Nothing is the same script, right? Not her family there. She's not mentioned on the TV shows. Her family is not coming on these shows talking about her. The whole thing is like Alice in Wonderland. And I just want to say, I feel like when I was reading yesterday, these columns pouring out, people say, and tweets, people saying that conservatives conservatives should no longer be allowed to, like, first of all, it came out on Project Veritas that that guy from PBS, he was an attorney affiliated with, working for PBS, said that Trump supporters should have their children taken away and sent to re-education camps. He was wishing,
What?
yeah, oh yeah, I'll send it to you.
Oh my God. You
That,
know what? This is so
hoping
weird.
that
It's
Trump
like people,
supporters would die from COVID at the Trump
people have
rally.
lost their
Wishing to death.
minds.
This is like, I could barely function yesterday. I felt such a darkness. Like, that's me. I was at that rally. Am I going to go, are they going to come and knock on my door? I'm a criminal now. It's so head spinning. People did absolutely, needless to say, nothing wrong. But it's this drum being beaten by the media is ferocious. And it's not, okay, we got our guy, Biden, peaceful transition. No, they are saying, get these people, do not let them work, do not let them fly, do not let them live, be people, don't let them have jobs, don't let their children have jobs. This is beyond former GDR, this is like intense Maoist, terrifying revolutionary stuff. And
So Dirk,
so disgusted.
let me ask you something. You just heard what Celia had to say. What was the aftermath of your August?
It's again similar because there were officially people started to talk that children should be taken away from families if the parents were not willing to go with the COVID methods. So that would created an outroar, and it was said that of course, the police could shoot people, which is very rare in Germany. You have to understand that we have a very low violence rate in terms of it's not even the police is not very brutal normally. Yeah. So it was and it reminded me. I've done several documentaries in this on this field, and it was similar in the Nazi era and in GDR. That you would have a situation, for example, telling a joke about Adolf Hitler could lead to some people laughing with you, finding it very funny, or you could be beheaded, but you didn't know which would happen. And the same is in the GDR, that you get into trouble because saying something or not, and then you start to think yourself. And that's called let the mind do the walking. So you just like you described, you start, what will be the outcome of this? Suddenly I am in danger. I am an outsider and I could be prosecuted by police. That's part of a technique that creates a situation where you immediately think what you're doing in terms, it's putting pressure on society. And it's also in a way similar to the strategy of tension in Italy in the 70s and 80s, when there were terrorist acts allegedly performed at that time by left-wing terrorists. It turned out it was right-wing terrorists in working with intelligence services who had a strategy to build up violence in the society, so the society would start to ask for harsh measurements, for cracking down on rights in the society. You would, it's like the people would ask the governments to get harsh methods against these terrorists and do a fight and have searching people's home and so on. So it has a smell to that. So strategy of tension is something that is similar to what is happening here. And I wanted to say again, because we have this in the families, a division. And I noticed that we have talked about this. We noticed in the United States with Trump that this is something that happens. And we have it with COVID-19. It is like you're like in the 15th or 16th century, you're either with us or against us. Yeah, it's like two tribes. It's Catholic and Protestants in Europe who killed 50% of the population in Germany off because of this division of that. And it's creating a division, and it's creating instead in the media, instead of doing their duty, which would be to be barters, to deal with the groups and make sure that there's communication, so it doesn't lead to this crystallization of the society. Do the opposite. It's in favor of that, and you can make a career now if you're very much into that. And I'm a left-winger, so I'm very sorry about what is happening there, because it's mainly from the left wing coming, this this attack against basic rights, against human treatment between people. It's very weird. And now suddenly, you know, then yourself, as I said, I'm a left winger, and then I'm considered a right winger now for not going along with these things. Yeah. So it's very, very weird. And it's very similar. I think we should do the opposite. We should invite one of you to our that will be a little bit more difficult talking in German, but it's so similar what we experience. For us, it's not, there's nothing like Trump, but COVID-19 did the job. And then I thought for some time, you know, in the medieval times, it was religion which could bring people to the idea that you have to burn somebody to save a soul, allegedly. Of course, you just wanted to burn somebody. That was mainly because somebody had a different belief. Witches came later, yeah, that was later on in history. And then you had, in the 20th century, you have ideologies which can do that. And that doesn't work too anymore. And now it's this alleged science and health and natural science, which is put into a situation where either you have a brain and then you're with us, or you are some jerk, banana, whatever, who's not believing what the scientists say, and you have to be taken care of. It gives you the
Trump, that's what Trump ran into, you know. Trump was not buying some of
and
these.
it's along these lines, you know, it's so easy also in
tension
Europe.
with Fauci and everything, you know, so.
It's, you know, you fall, you don't keep the balance, but you fall into, and then it's for example, Twitter, shutting Twitter down, shutting Instagram, shutting Facebook, getting people out of, suddenly people applaud that people from a tech company have the supreme sovereign of the state, and nobody says, how can this happen? I thought we are a democracy and freedom of speech is constitutional. Suddenly it's acceptable, and it's even they applaud, and it's hard to understand.
I want to ask Celia, have you been censored? You know, Celia, if you look at Celia's Wikipedia page, they did to her what you described. She's called a conspiracy theorist and all that stuff, you know. So, but I'm just wondering, Celia, are you facing any of that? I had an interview with Rainer Fuhlmich. I don't know if you know who he is. The lawyer who's starting these cases to try and figure out the true science, what's real science the lockdowns are based on, because otherwise it's just mass arrest. Anyway, that was yanked off of YouTube.
Oh,
How
was
about
it?
you?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Christina.
Yes.
I just got a message on my computer that if I don't charge it, it's going to shut down. So I'm so sorry. But
all right. So I will talk to Dirk.
Talk to Dirk, but I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm just going to grab my charger.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was very interested in the fact that you had done this thing on Wikipedia a lot. When did you do that, Dirk? Because
we started about 2 or 3 years ago, and the experience was just, you know, Wikipedia. Now there are 20 years of Wikipedia, and there's lots of documentary. There are 2 documentaries on German TV, lots of programs, and they depict Wikipedia as this wonderful open source program where everybody can write, and the knowledge of the world is collected and made available to everybody. And it's such a wonderful, and there are people from all over. And the only problem is that probably we don't have enough. We have too many white male people. There are not enough female people. They're not people of color. So this is what they depict. And if you look into it, it's first you have to understand about Wikipedia. That's the number 5 website in the world. So it is a monopoly. And if you are depicted, what happened to me is when we started to criticize us, my entry in Wikipedia was turned, I was suddenly, from being a well-known journalist and with a reputation, I became an idiot, complete idiot,
exactly.
Dirk, conspiracy theorist. And That's because with the Wikipedia, what you do as a journalist, if you have an interview with somebody, you type the name in, and then you see, oh God, oh my God, should I? And then they drop you from the list of people who are probably reasonably enough to be taken into account of it, doing an interview with. And then it's an enormous power structure. This is why I became interested in it. You can define how an event or how people are viewed. And it should be the most democratic structure behind it, because it is a monopoly. The more power there is in something, the more you have to control that it's not misused. And it's the opposite. That's what we could show. That, for example, just to give an example, Jimmy Wales, who's telling about this open source thing, he had a contract in one of the Central Asian states. And he was doing a Wikipedia for the government. So where the government was hated and the people in opposition were put down, and with Tony Blair together. It was him and Tony Blair doing a PR company for that. And Jimmy Wales is so close to Tony Blair that he married his secretary. So you see, it's depicted as a peaceful garden, when in effect it is. There's a study from Purdue University who showed, and that's exactly the same in Germany, that 1% of the people write more than 70% of the entries. So if you're in this in-group, you're in there, and if somebody appears in Germany writing Wikipedia in a different way, on topics that are not algebra or biology. Yeah, COVID is already biology, which is dangerous. Yeah, but so if it's not that, then you're thrown out immediately for lifetime. And that's one of the weirdest things, that they lose about 500 people in Germany per month who are thrown out for lifetime, because they have edited something that this in-group doesn't like. And the Purdue University story said it's like a political party or a religious group who takes the lust and pride in having this power which they can afflict. And that is, so this is probably, if you look into it, you will see it that people are smeared, and that the point is that you can control the narrative.
We're talking to one of them, Celia.
Yeah, okay.
Go look at her Wikipedia page.
You know, it's really strange. A lot of people have spoken to me about my Wikipedia entry, and this may sound very strange, but I've never read it. There's something energetically that happens when I go to my Wikipedia page, and I sort of read it, but I just
you can't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you don't want to see it.
Exactly what you're talking about. The same with me. When they started to write about me, I just tried to protect myself from reading that, because you feel like it's it's
now, of course,
you put out in the public place and everybody can throw things at you. That was a punishment in medieval times, where you was the punishment was that you were made a non-person in public, and that's what Wikipedia is used for now. So, and it's very, of course, I mean, it's clear that something of this power will be that some people will try to use it, and it's a festivity for any kind of intelligence service, because at the same time it looks like an encyclopedia, and you think an encyclopedia is the shortest version of truth you can get about something. When it is used as a political tool to be used in a confrontation, or to simply discredit your enemy, and that it shouldn't happen in a democracy that something like this is possible. And if there's only one worldwide, and they work together, then it should be smashed into pieces, or there should at least be 2 or 3 others, which are, it shouldn't be one, because it will attract this definition power. Knowledge is power, and this definition power of knowledge will attract people to misuse it, and that happens. And they have no methods against it. They're working with it, in favor of it. They sell it to governments or to pressure groups.
So let's do a list of the hallmarks of our current situation, around the world. All right. We have COVID that is separating people, isolating people, and criminalizing anybody who goes against that isolation, Now you've got the people trying to protest because they're going hungry, their businesses are failing, they're falling into the true darkness. So now you have them when they march, next thing you know, you've got a small operation that turns all of them into what are now going to be called domestic terrorists. And Biden, of course, they've been working on the Domestic Terrorist Act, which will be coming down the pike very soon.
May
Now,
I remind
wait
you
a
that
second.
Biden was, Biden is the guy who made
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
security stuff.
Oh, Biden's
That's,
on board. Now, okay, so we've got the COVID separation, isolation, whatever, and criminalizing of getting together. Get together. Next thing you know, you've got, you know, the Reichstag incident. Now you've got also, you have Google and Facebook. You have all these major platforms that are censoring everybody who is not going along with the COVID, the official COVID narration, the official Trump narration, any narration that is key to moving forward all of this that is being moved forward. So you have now this overt, because they did do it covertly before, but this overt, massive censorship. So I don't know if anybody has anything else to add to that list, but what does that spell, you know, for us and the world?
Global tyranny, also known as the New World Order, the Great Economic Reset, Agenda 2030. They've been very clear about this. And that's another show. We won't get into it now, but
well,
I'm sure
let's get into it a little bit. We have a few minutes.
yeah,
we have about 10 minutes. Go ahead and talk about the Great Reset for a minute.
I make that very shortly. I looked into it, and it's a strange part where I think the same people that for 40 years have told us that neoliberalism will produce a paradise for everybody. Everything will be better. And then in effect, what you saw is that, for example, right now in Germany, Germany is a middle-class economy. We have hundreds of companies up to 500 employees, and they're all in danger of being, you know, they will be taken over by what we call the locusts, yeah, which is the financial companies that feed, they leave nothing when they come to the field. So that is one thing that is happening. You have this strange atmosphere from the vision from the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, who looks a little bit like Dr. Evil. and that's the funny part of that. But he's handing out a vision, and this is with the transhumanism, which is very weird. Yeah, that is a kind of cult, as I understand, very high up in those people. It's not a military industrial complex in the United States. It's a IT financial intelligence complex. Which
IT,
is,
financial, pharmaceutical, because now the new frontiers are the human body, the blood, the brain, because there's now neuro weapons that they're developing.
Yeah, that is DARPA is working with that. So the whole thing with the mRNA vaccination is a project from DARPA, and that was strange. They were the ones putting it forward, because in the end, the plan, like from biochemistry, it's quite easy to turn this mRNA that doesn't go into the cell, is not in the stream of inheritance, but you can turn it very easily around. And this is what they're interested in. And from the economic side, it's like they will produce something like a time machine, Eloy future, where you don't own anything, you're fed, you take everything from the outside, and you're supposed to be very happy with it. It's kind of a slave.
And also
hours around, yeah.
And also, whoever is undesirable, whoever becomes an undesirable, or whoever becomes excess humanity, you just switch that person off, you know.
Another thing is that we had already, there was in Germany, this unconditional income. That was an idea, unconditional, and it will become a conditional income. You will get the money electronically. This is also going on, to get everything in currency.
That way you control everybody's money.
You can control everybody, because you just switch them off. Yeah. So it's in terms, I don't think, as I said, I don't know if I have the same political background as you, but in terms of if you're interested anyway in liberty, this is very dangerous what's going on. It's not putting the power to downside to the people, what my idea is, but it will be an elite, as Christina said, a very small elite of people. And I've met some of them, you know, I've talked to the special assistant of Bill Casey, who then told me that he's now working with Bill Gates and that they have this idea of, you know, Casey, who done Iran Contra, you know, selling cocaine in the United States, stuff like that. Yeah. And so he was saying that we know how the world is run. And that's another thing I think you should take into account, that they think that this old-fashioned democracy, yeah, which is my favorite, the old-fashioned democracy is over, and now it will be governance. It will be management by the people who shown in the big companies that they're capable of doing this, and they will govern better than this mechanical clicking old mechanism of democracy and checks and balances and so on. So they will try to sell it as modernized version, and it's PR speak. If you read the things from Klaus Schwab and what they publish, it's a lot of glitzy words, yeah. But it's the background is it reminds me of the tales where people say slavery was not that bad because somebody took care where you slept, what you ate, and you just had to work. Yeah. So it's like a proposal of slavery painted chromed in a chromed version. Yeah?
Wow. That was
serfdom or slavery, somewhere in between. Yeah, they're preparing, and you can see how fast it's happened. Of course, Aldous Huxley is famous for this phrase. I'm going to paraphrase that: in future totalitarian societies, you won't even have to corral people and control them; that they will love their servitude. That's the most depressing thing, is to see that people are well, actually, I don't really want to stress that, because what I really want to emphasize is the other side of that. How many people are daring to go take to the streets and express themselves about liberty. And I love your word, freedom, liberty. I forget which word you used, but that we cannot forget that is not a dirty thing, but it is quickly becoming a dirty idea, you know, a bad idea. Like, you're
well,
bad.
my question is, are we strong? Are those of us who are not in the 0.01% that are going to be the governors, are the rest of us strong enough, smart enough, have resources enough to counter this and make it go away? I mean, these people are teched up to the, you know, and beyond with things that we don't even know about.
That's the big question. But the talk in this country, and Dirk, I'd like to hear what's going on in Germany, but people are talking, of course, in terms of breakaway micro civilizations, just get out of the cities, go out to the country if at all possible, form communities, start your own local currency, which I've heard. I'm in right now in Northwestern Connecticut, but nearby in upstate New York. Actually, I know somebody, his name is Paul Glover, who started local currency a couple of decades ago. So there are these pioneers. I mean, this sounds really desperate, and we are really desperate. This is how people are talking here. We're gonna revert back to you know, the time before there was a federal
government. Do you
government.
think there are enough people who see what's going on so that will happen?
Well, I would put it this way: the people who see what's going on and who feel like this about it are not really waiting around to hope that the whole thing breaks down, but rather thinking in terms of essentially fleeing to where they can survive. And people are speaking like, if I go here or I go there, I think about this every day. Where could I go where I won't be hunted down, arrested, forcibly injected with this terrifying mRNA? It's not a vaccine.
Well, they don't call these people globalists for nothing, you know.
Right. I mean, no, I mean, there's going to.
Where can you go is my question.
Where can you go?
If they have surveillance virtually every inch of this globe, every inch of this planet is being surveilled just about, where any living beings are. I mean, I'm just saying, you have to think about it, the whole thing. And I don't know. I don't know. You talk, Dirk. You tell me what you think. Are people thinking the same?
I know several people now, when I talk to them, who speak about where they could flee to which country.
See?
That is a common thing. That is a common thing in Germany that that might sound strange to you, but Russia is a huge country where you can live without anybody noticing you, just because of the magnitude of it's the largest country in the world, yeah, 11 time zones. So if you've ever been there, if you go to Siberia, which is a lovely place in the summertime, in the winter it's a bit cold, but then you can, nobody, you know, it's, you could say that the freedom is that the government will not take care of you. You are simply out there. If you go to the Baikal area, Portugal is a place where some people like to go. Then Greece, because Greece have been anarchists forever.
Yeah. One of the things these people are doing is they're making confederations of you know, they're getting rid of nation states, you know.
That's
so
right.
that's the other problem about where you're going to go if they're getting rid of nation states. We only have 1 minute, you guys, so make it good.
Okay. Nation state is a thing that needs to be taken into account again, because the real internationalists are now those people who try to put serfdom on us. And the only possible area we have to defend against it is smaller areas, regional or nation states. So they fight against it again with PR words, but we shouldn't listen to it. It's a pursuit of happiness. That's a good thing from the American Constitution. That's what a lot of it is about. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And
Celia?
just to stay loving, because COVID is code for eternal hostility against your fellow man. So we just have to stay decent and civilized and loving toward one another. And that, you know, they can't stand when we do that.
It is, you know, it really is. It's all about the love. It really is. Well, listen, you guys, thank you so much. It's been fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for being on the show.